Today's topic is probably the most important of all the topics that I have covered and will cover on this podcast. Today, we're talking about what it really means to build self-worth and how it differs from self-esteem and confidence. And most importantly, how to strengthen it. Well, how to really strengthen yourself in all three of those areas. Because this work changes everything. It changes the way you show up in relationships, at work, in your friendships, and most importantly, with yourself. If self-worth is a struggle for you, then I want you to know that you are not alone. It is such a universally shared struggle, and it was a major struggle for me for so much of my life. I spent so much of my life hating myself and feeling absolutely worthless. Now, here's the thing. Self-worth and confidence aren't the same thing. There were areas where I was very much confident in myself, but I still had no self-worth, and deep down carried this belief that just followed me around like toilet paper stuck to my shoe, that I was unworthy, that I wasn't good enough. And when I built my self-worth, that is when absolutely everything changed for me. For one, that's when I started dating my husband. When he and I started dating, that was the first healthy relationship I had ever been in. Up until then, all my relationships were either a guy totally obsessed with me and me having the ick and just not being able to summon any feelings towards him, or me chasing after emotionally avoidant or emotionally damaged guys and trying to convince them to love me. This was the first time I was actually in a reciprocal relationship. It was my first healthy relationship. And I told the full story on that and how that came to be a few episodes ago. So check that out as well if you want to know the full story. At the same time, all these other guys were after me they were all just coming out of the woodwork. And it was so crazy to me because I had been in such a dating drought for such a long time. There was no one out there. And anytime I would go on a date, it would just be awful, terrible, painful. But all of a sudden, it was freaking raining men. And a lot of these guys had already been in my orbit. The difference is, I'm telling you, and I'm not a woo-woo person. I am not. You guys know I am very much grounded in reality, but I do believe in vibrational frequencies. Absolutely. I believe, and I'm sure you've experienced this in your own life. There is an energy that we project out there. And once I was vibrating on a different level, on that level of having self-worth, everything was different. And beyond the guys and the attention and the dating, there were so many other areas in my life that dramatically improved. One in particular was my relationship with food. I completely stopped binge eating. I didn't have binge eating disorder, but I feel like most women, actually just most people, this isn't even a woman thing, we have a very emotional relationship with food. And when I was stressed or when I was feeling down, food was my comfort. But as I worked on building my self-worth, that completely shifted. I no longer needed to reach for food to feel better. I started honoring my body in a way that felt very natural and effortless. And I remember the moment when I noticed how much I had improved in this area was I realized there was a jar of Nutella that had been sitting in my cabinet for 2 months. Now, and I was still eating it. It's not that I forgot about it. I would still, occasionally take a little bit or spread it on something. But before that, it maybe could last 2 days in the cabinet. And if I had recently been ghosted or something really upsetting had happened, forget it. It would last maybe an hour. I also noticed that my friendships were stronger and healthier. I stopped comparing myself to others. I stopped feeling threatened by someone else's success. Instead of letting envy creep in, I felt like I could genuinely celebrate my friends' wins, whether it was a new relationship, a promotion, or losing a lot of weight. I became a better friend, and as a result, my friendships deepened. And also as a result, so many people just wanted to be my friend. I just remember this point in my life. I would meet people and that people were always inviting me to things and reaching out to me. And here's the thing. That shift happened before I even started dating my husband. So we're going back even before this. So it's not you were in a relationship, so yeah, you were happy, you could be happy for other people. No, before I was even in the relationship, I just felt so satisfied and so okay, to use the lingo of this podcast. I just felt so okay. I wasn't threatened by anything around me. I was so satisfied that I could genuinely be happy for other people. I was no longer a self-absorbed friend. And that makes such a difference. And everybody wants a friend like that. Another big change was that my career really started to take off at this point. I mean, at this point, I was writing about relationships. I had a blog. But as my confidence and self-worth grew, and these things grew in tandem, I mean, like I said, they are interrelated. I was more willing to take risks. I was more willing to reach out to big publications and say, hey, like, can I write an article for you? Whereas before I was like, well, who am I? Like, what do I have to say? I also stopped letting my extreme perfectionism hold me back, because perfectionism is really self-sabotage. And that's really a reflection of low self-worth. It always comes back to that. I also got a handle on my imposter syndrome. I realized what I was good at, what my strengths were, what I had to offer the world. And this new sense of self-assurance really made me feel bold and brave. And I made bolder moves, which really propelled my career forward. Now, this isn't just about me. Fine, that was my unique experience, but I have been working with women. I've been doing this for over 15 years. And my transformation is exactly what I see with all my clients as well. When they really, really shift inward and focus on their self-worth, I see their whole lives change. Career, friendships, romantic relationships, their relationship with their self. My story is not a one-off. It's just my story, so it's easy for me to reference. It's not a one-off. This can happen for you as well. And I'm going to give you a lot of powerful insights and tools and tips throughout this episode to really help you get there. So let's start with the basics. What is self-worth? Self-worth is not about achievements. It's not about how much praise you get. It is about your inherent belief within yourself that you are valuable and worthy no matter what. Your self-worth isn't something that you earn. It's something that you uncover. But for a lot of us, our self-worth has been buried under years of negative messaging, trauma, rejection, heartbreak, comparison. So the first thing I want to ask you, and that I want you to think about, is what story are you telling yourself about who you are? Because your self-concept, your identity, is really just a narrative. It's a story that you've created over time based on your experiences, your beliefs, your fears. And the thing is, we filter everything through that story. We cling to the details that match it, and we reject anything that doesn't fit. The part of your brain that does this is called the reticular activating system. You're basically picking up on all evidence that supports your pre-existing beliefs. So if your inner story is, I'm not good enough, then guess what you're going to notice? All the reasons why you're not good enough. Every rejection will just be further proof. It will add to that emotional piggy bank, storing all the reasons why you're not good enough, why you're an unworthy loser. This is why changing your story, your inner dialogue, is where the real work begins. Now, I mentioned earlier that self-worth, self-esteem, and confidence are different. They're related, but they're different. So let's just look at what the difference is between these three things. Self-worth, like I said, is the deep-rooted belief that you are valuable simply because you exist. It's stable. It doesn't rise and fall depending on how your day went and how many compliments or how many fire emojis you got on Instagram. Self-esteem is more about how much you value and like yourself. It's shaped by your experiences and how others respond to you. So self-esteem can rise and fall. You know, you have a day where everyone's complimenting you, everyone's praising you. All right, your self-esteem is going to be pretty high that day. Ideally, we don't want our self-esteem to come from the outside. Healthy self-esteem is generated within. Toxic self-esteem is when you're constantly looking to the world to tell you who you are. Now, self-confidence is your belief in your ability to do something, your trust in your skills, and your capacity to figure things out. Essentially, confidence is knowing I will be okay no matter what. I can deal with it. I can handle it. This is why people who are confident can go out and do things. They can go on dates and not be so afraid of rejection or heartbreak because they know, okay, it will be painful. It's not that they're immune to the pain, but I can deal with it. Like I'll handle it. I'll pick myself back up again. Now, you can have confidence in one area or several areas of your life. And I see this a lot with my clients. They'll tell me, you know, like, I know that I look good. I'm in shape. I know I'm attractive. I know I'm smart. I'm successful at my job. I know that I'm a really good friend. I know I'm funny. I know I'm kind. I know I have so much to offer, but they're making terrible choices in their love life. They know all these things about themselves, and yet they're chasing after the emotionally unavailable guy who won't commit. Or they're dating guys who just treat them terribly, who are not kind to them, who take advantage of them, who take them for granted. This is what it looks like to have confidence but have no self-worth. You can even have very high self-esteem in public, but beat yourself up when you're alone. Now, people can project an aura or an image of having high self-esteem and confidence, but internally they might just be beating themselves to a pulp. And that's why it really comes down to self-worth, because that's your anchor. If you don't have that, then everything else will be wobbly. So that's what we're really going to focus on today. But why is it so hard, right? I spent years and years early on in my career saying, like, focus on your self-worth and then your relationships will get better and this will get better. But my problem was it took me a long time to figure out how to implement. And so people would read my content and say, Sabrina, like I worked on my self-worth and I worked on it in therapy and I'm feeling so good. I'm in such a great place. And everything you said would happen. But it took me a little while to really figure out like how to get there, how to do it on my own. And back then, there was no social media really. What did we have back then? I mean, maybe there was Instagram, but it was not the Instagram of today. It was just like artsy photos. We had Facebook. There was nothing. There was nothing. There was nobody was talking about any of this. If I wanted relationship advice, I would like watch an episode of Sex and the City. So why is it so hard to build self-worth? Well, first let's look at where low self-worth comes from. The first place, and this is the obvious one, childhood wounds. If you were criticized, neglected, or made to feel like love was something that had to be earned, that love was conditional, then you internalize that. The next, tying into childhood wounds, is parental influence. If you had overly critical or distant or perfectionistic caregivers, that will wire you to believe that you are never quite enough. The next is trauma. Abuse, whether it's emotional, physical, or otherwise, can often lead to shame. And shame is a huge block to self-worth. So let's just define trauma quickly because the word gets thrown around a ton. Trauma is what happens when you go through something really upsetting or overwhelming and you don't have the tools, the support, or the capacity to cope with it at the time. Your nervous system gets overloaded and the experience can leave a very lasting imprint emotionally, physically, and psychologically. It's not just about what happened, it's also about how equipped you were to handle it in that moment. This is why certain things like being left out of your friend group in middle school or the guy you had a crush on saying, I don't like you, like you're fat and ugly. Why would I ever date you? Now, for some people, these things wouldn't be a trauma, probably because they had more of a stable emotional backbone due to having caregivers who maybe helped foster a more secure environment. But for other people who are already kind of weak in their sense of worth, that is traumatic. It's traumatic because it is so overwhelmingly upsetting to have that experience. And a lot of the time, I mean, there's that book, right? The Body Keeps the Score. All this stuff gets stored in our bodies and our subconscious. The next cause of low self-worth is social comparison, especially now. I mean, I remember it being bad when I was growing up. I can't even imagine what kids today are going through. I just sounded so old saying that, kids today, but it's true. Social media has made it almost impossible to not feel like you're behind, not pretty enough, not skinny enough, not successful enough, not anything enough. We could go on and on. Not enough of a good mom, not productive enough. The next is unrealistic standards. When you set the bar at perfect, anything that's not perfect feels like failure, and perfect doesn't exist. So you will always feel like failure. The next is negative self-talk. And this is huge. If your inner voice is constantly tearing you down, you're going to believe it over time. And a lot of the time, that inner voice that lives within us isn't even our own voice. It's the voice of a bully, or most often it's the voice of a critical parent or both parents. And then finally, it's cultural messaging. We are constantly told that we are only as worthy as our looks or as our bank account or as our relationship status. And all of that gets wired in. And if you don't feel like you measure up to whatever the standard is, you feel like you are just not enough. But here's the truth, okay? Write this down, burn it into your brain. Your worth has never been up for debate. You just learn to believe otherwise. And this is good news because if you learned it, you can unlearn it. Self-worth means you no longer tie your value to how much someone loves you or approves of you. It means you stop apologizing for taking up space or for existing or for things that weren't even your fault. You speak to yourself with the same kindness that you would speak to your best friend or to a young child, especially to a young child, because it's probably your inner child that needs those kind words the most. And you accept rejection without letting it destroy you, because rejection doesn't touch your core value. And also, who says rejection is a bad thing? For someone with high self-worth, rejection is actually a good thing. Why would I want something that isn't meant for me? All rejection means is this wasn't the right thing for me. It wasn't the right person. It wasn't the right job. It wasn't the right opportunity. It wasn't the right time. Okay, I don't want anything in my life that's not right for me. So great, rejection is a good thing. Bring it on. Now I want you to pause here and ask yourself, what would you do differently if you had zero fear of rejection? Think about it. Sit with it for a second. The answer is who you really are underneath the fear. The fear is what's blocking you from being that person. You are that person. However you would act, however you would show up if you weren't afraid of rejection. Now let's get practical. Let's talk about practical steps to build your self-worth. So here are a few tools that you can start using. Start using today. The first is self-reflection and awareness. Journaling and meditation aren't just fluff. It's not just fluffy. They're not just like the buzzwords or trends. They're crucial. Journaling and meditation predate therapy, okay? Before there were therapists, before that was a job, there was journaling and there was meditation, and that's what people did. And journaling and meditation can be as effective as therapy. I'm in full support of therapy, but those tools are so effective as well. Especially if you can get the trifecta going, then you're really in good shape. So track your thoughts. Notice when you're being overly harsh on yourself and ask yourself, is this thought actually true? Or is this an old wound talking? If you feel triggered or insecure, trace it back. Trace it back to the source. That job rejection, the date that ghosted you, does it really hurt because of what's happening now? Or is it pulling on something from the past? Okay? Think about it. Number 2, self-care and compassion. Self-care is not just bubble baths, okay? It's about how you treat yourself when nobody is watching. It's about honoring what it is that you really need. So rest when you feel tired, feed yourself when you're hungry, and speak to yourself kindly when you fail. Well, not when you fail. Nothing is ever really a failure. Speak to yourself kindly when things don't go how you thought they were supposed to go, how they were meant to go. Because the way you're talking to yourself, that's really you being the parent, the caregiver that you needed when things were hard for you and you didn't get the support that you needed. Instead, you were neglected or criticized or made to feel like you were the problem. What I did and was really effective for me was what I call the George Costanza approach. My default, like I've told you guys about, was always self-destruction. You know, like something doesn't go my way. Okay, I'm going to binge. I'm going to starve. I'm going to get blackout drunk. I'm going to numb myself. I'm going to get lost in something else so I don't have to feel my feelings. So when I decided to take the George Costanza, okay, for those of you who have no idea what I'm talking about, there was an episode of Seinfeld where George was like, nothing goes right in my life. I'm going to do everything opposite. And so like he's at the deli and instead of ordering like a tuna sandwich, he orders like an egg salad sandwich. And then this beautiful woman is like, oh my God, you order the exact same thing as me. And all of a sudden everything's going right in his life. So for me, when I faced a crushing rejection, I remember my breakthrough moment was saying, no, I'm not going to slip back into those old patterns. I'm not going to just go out barely dressed with the intention of getting a lot of male attention to validate me, to make me feel like I'm worthy. No, instead, I'm going to like go to a yoga class. I'm going to drink a green juice. I'm going to rest and I'm going to take care of myself and I'm going to be nice to myself. And then I did that and it felt really good. And I was like, maybe what else can I do to make myself feel good? It's about the moments when that voice in your head says, you're not good enough. And you decide to answer with, I'm learning and that's enough. Or I am good enough exactly as I am. That's the work that you need to do. Okay, maybe everything's not how I want it to be yet, but I'm on my way. Number 3, Take action even when it's scary. Set goals for yourself, meaningful goals, and take small steps to achieve them. Confidence comes from doing, not from waiting until you feel ready, because you're never going to feel ready for anything. Let me tell you, you are not. You're not going to feel ready. There's always going to be a reason not to do it. The more you prove to yourself that you can survive discomfort, the more confident you become. So set a meaningful goal for yourself. Maybe it's learning a new language. Maybe it's training for a marathon or a half marathon. Maybe it's just getting in really good shape. Maybe it's learning how to cook or how to bake. Maybe it's finally writing that book that you've always wanted to write, or writing that short story, or writing that poem. Maybe it's taking a class. Do something. Get in touch with your sense of aliveness, of feeling alive, of that feeling of, this is what I was put in this world to do. I was put in this world to do this thing, and I'm going to do it because it puts me in touch with myself. And it, not only that, but like, I'm bringing good into the world. I'm inspiring people. That is powerful. Number 4, most important of all, this is probably the sentence I say more than anything else, is you have to challenge the narrative. This was where I went the most wrong in my quest to build self-worth, is that I never did this. We all have a story that we tell ourselves, and most of us never stop and question it because that story has just been there for so long. It just runs in the background like a script. I'm not good enough. I'll never have a healthy relationship. I am just too much. I'm just too broken. But here's the thing, just because it's a thought that plays on repeat does not mean that it's true. So you have to start identifying the belief. Say it out loud or write it down. Sometimes just hearing it and writing it down makes you realize how harsh you're being with yourself and how untrue the thing is. I can't even tell you how many client sessions I've had where I will ask, what is a limiting belief that you want to get rid of? And they'll say it out loud. And usually the belief is, I'm not good enough. I'm never going to find anyone. And as soon as they say it out loud, they're like, wait a minute, but like, no, I don't really believe that. So why do I believe it? Why do I believe it? So the next step is you have to ask yourself, where did this come from? What is the evidence that supports it? Now, this is really where you're going to get stuck, okay? You want to challenge yourself? Ask yourself, what is the evidence that supports the fact that I'm going to end up alone, I'm not good enough, I'm unworthy? And more importantly, okay, so you're going to ask for yourself for the evidence, come up with whatever you come up with. And then you're going to ask, could there be another explanation? Could there be another explanation? So let's say your limiting belief is, I'm not lovable. You're going to ask yourself, could that be untrue? Could it be that, or could it be that you were just shown love in an inconsistent or conditional way? And now you're learning something different. So instead, you can say to yourself, I've been through painful things, but I'm learning how to love and to be loved in a new way. Now that shift is powerful. That is where the healing begins. And the problem is that those old beliefs get wired in. And if we don't actively challenge them, they will be there and they will keep running the show. But you can rewrite your story. I really got a lesson in this when I had my most significant heartbreak of all time. And I mean, long story short is he left me for someone else, which was always my biggest fear. And I don't know, maybe I manifested it by dwelling on how that was my biggest fear, or maybe that was my intuition telling me like, this guy is not for you. And I gave. Anyway, like I said, long story short, he cheated on me. I would have taken him back, but he left me for her. And he acted like I was nothing. Like when I asked him, why? How could you do this to me? I did everything for you. I've been so good to you. I stayed up with you every night till 3 a.m. because you were depressed, and I helped you fix your life. Like, how could you do this? And he was just so cold. And he was like, well, what can I say? It is what it is. I mean, exactly like that. Now, at the time, I internalized it to mean, oh, I am just unworthy. Like, I am not good enough. I will be disposed of. And that was the interpretation that I stuck with for a very long time. It was only years and years and years later, when I was really deep into work and understanding self-development, that I realized that he was actually a textbook narcissist. And I don't throw that word around. I do not. I use that word with intention. He was a textbook narcissist. And I didn't even see it. Even though I was a psych major. And while we were dating, I was taking abnormal psychology and learning about all the cluster B personality disorders. And I still didn't even see it. I think at the time I thought maybe he had some form of like bipolar, but I didn't see it. And then when that shifted and I realized, oh my God, he didn't discard me because I wasn't good enough. It was because I wasn't a good enough source of ego fuel anymore. And that's what narcissists need. And he found someone who was just a better source of supply. That's all that happened. So a really good challenge for yourself also is write out all your significant relationships, your past significant relationships. And then you're going to write down why it ended. So in my case, okay, so write down the name of the guy, why it ended. He cheated on me, left me for someone else. Then you write down your interpretation of the ending, which is, well, I wasn't good enough. I wasn't pretty enough. He upgraded to a better model. Then you're going to write an alternative explanation, which in my case would have been, oh no, he was just a narcissist who was feeding his own ego. So that's an interesting little challenge. And you're going to see how much you've internalized so many horrible beliefs about yourself that are just not true. Okay, finally, number 5 to build your self-worth is you must change your relationship to rejection. Rejection is not a reflection of your worth. It is redirection. It is God's protection. It is an opportunity to build resilience. So every time you survive a rejection, you get through it, you're stronger. As long as you decide that that's what you are. Instead of, why is this happening to me? Ask yourself, what is this teaching me? And the rejection might be teaching you, okay, I thought I needed this, but that's not meant for me. Or maybe it's teaching you, wow, I really need to learn how to self-source. I really need to learn how to build myself up from within, because why am I so crushed that a guy I went on 2 dates with decided he doesn't want to date me anymore? Why am I so devastated? What is this hitting on? Because again, rejection is not a bad thing. It's only a bad thing when you make it personal and when you use it as evidence to support limiting beliefs that you already have about yourself. So here's what I want to leave you with. You don't have to prove your worth. You just have to remember it. And remembering takes time and it takes consistency. And in some cases, it takes support. So if you've been struggling, if your self-worth feels fragile, know this. You're not alone and it's not too late. You can change your narrative. You can rebuild your foundation. And you can become the person who finally sees themselves clearly. So start today. Start with something small. Start with compassion. Start with acceptance. Start with pursuing a goal. And if you're ready, because you got to be ready, then this is the work that I do in my 8-week course, which is also called You Will Be Okay. So you will work with me personally, and I will create a custom plan for you to help you heal your trauma, to overcome your blocks, and to get in touch with your worthiness. You can learn more about this on my website, sabrinabendori.com, and click on the course. You can also set up a free call with me if you want to just discuss in person how this works and how I can help you. Thank you so much for listening. I really hope this episode spoke to you. I hope it inspired you. I hope it motivated you. Please share it with someone who might need to hear it. And please leave a review, leave a comment. Please share your feedback. I mean, this is always so helpful for me. You can email me anytime, sabrina@sabrinabendori.com. I love hearing from you. Let me know what you thought of the episode, what other episodes you'd like me to do. And until next time, and remember, you're worth it. Keep showing up for yourself. You'll get there.